Once again, family, I want to welcome you to Problem Solvers University. If you haven't heard my previously recordings, I would suggest you take a look at them. For those who are new to this university, I offer this course, these classes free of charge. God has given me a certain gift, and all my lectures are free. But I depend on your gracious donations to keep me up and running. For those who do not know, I am a retired Air Force veteran. I've served in the Air Force for about a little over 20 years, about 21 years total. I'm a graduate of Tampa Bay Tech and located in Tampa, Florida. So that's enough about me. I want to get down to it. You can see on your screen, that's what I look like with the robe on. That's I'm a doctor of theology, physiology, and I'm the founder of Problem Solvers University. So I look a lot better in person. So let's get going. Today's discussion is about aliens. Aliens. Now I know that's a strange subject for Christians, but basically what I want you to understand as Christians, what we call believers in Jesus Christ, Christians are not of this world. So then, where do we belong? I travel a lot overseas, countries like England. I was in London when Prince Charles and Diane got married. That was back in like 1981. And it was a pretty good time. I've been to places like Korea, Japan, Saudi Arabia, Germany, and then back and forth in many parts of the CONUS, continental United States of America. So, what is an alien? An alien is a foreigner, especially one who is not a naturalized citizen of the country where they are living. For example, when I traveled to England, Korea, Germany, Saudi Arabia, Japan, I was considered alien because my country was the United States of America. Now, they didn't call me an alien. They just called me brother in most places. You'll be surprised in a lot of foreign countries, they really accept Americans versus how we treat foreigners in America. Now, a Christian has been what we call recycled or reborn, born again. And now we're part, because I'm a Christian, we're part of a heavenly kingdom. So therefore, our bodies are still here on earth, but technically, our souls are of another kingdom because God owns all bodies. And the reason why he owns all body because he gave his son Jesus Christ, who paid a heavy price with his death on the cross to purchase all souls. So, this is one of the reasons why we call ourselves aliens, because even though we still walk around in a human body, our souls now belong to the kingdom of God. Now, if as Christians our home is in heaven, what exactly does it mean that Christians are not of this world? So this phrase comes from the book of John, chapter 18:36, where Jesus says that the kingdom is not of this world. Now, as his followers, which you and I are, or any believers, we're Christians are members of his kingdom, which is not of this world. That is to say, our home is heaven. So, yes, we are on earth for now, but our earthly lives are nothing but a vapor. Jesus' brother James made this very clear in the book of James, chapter 4, verse 14. But I will say this: eternity, that we look at eternity, it's kind of like a faraway idea when we think of this word eternity. It's not that long, because let's say I give the average human 100 years to live on earth. I guarantee you it'll fly by, and so our life is like a vapor here. And so our focus really should be on where are we going to end up in eternity, because every human will live somewhere in eternity, either heaven or the lake of fire. Now I know this is not preached a lot at churches nowadays, but that's the only two choices that we have as humans. Either heaven or the lake of fire. Not hell, the lake of fire. Hell is a stopping point between earth and the lake of fire. Okay? Now I don't want to get into that, but in one of my lectures, I will talk about heaven and hell. So, as Christians, we are temporarily assigned to earth. Now, if you look at those people, you might see me in there somewhere. This is what we call TDYs, temporary duty assignment. So, the things of this world, wars, famine, suffering, poverty, etc., impact Christians and non-Christians alike. You know, I always tell people, you know, the sun shines on the good and the bad. The rain falls on the good and the bad. That has nothing to do with God. See, that's just you are a part of this earth. So by remembering that we're not of this world, we're remembering that these things are just will last just for a little while. See, so we can see them, and we should approach this in a different light when we start thinking, well, this really is not my home. I'm going home one day. So we're still in this world, but we're no longer of it. So we're still going to be surrounded by the horrors and the tragedies of life, but this is not all life. As a Christian, we must not connect to these things of this world. So the knowledge that we're not of this world give Christians hope. Well, it should give you hope. So even in your darkest time, you know, death of a loved one, loss of a job, just remember, there's going to be a time when you really go home. Those guys getting on that aircraft right now, they're getting ready to head back to the United States of America. They've done their time overseas. They was temporarily assigned to a duty location, but they're getting ready to head home now. I remember when I used to go on all these TDYs, I would never unpack my duffel bag. You know, I would never try to put it away as though I'm going to stay there for a long time, because I would always write letters back home in the United States. I would make certain phone calls, and I had this longing to go home. When I came back from Desert Shield, well, Desert Storm, I kissed the ground when I got home. You know why? Because it was my home at that time versus Saudi Arabia. So what I want you to understand right now is that this crack and broken place that we call Earth, we don't belong here. So this is not where we're going to stay. So cheer up, because we have somewhere to go. So Christians are in what we call a holding pattern, waiting to go home. Now this gentleman here, you know, he came back from the war zone, hugging his children. He's a fighter pilot. So Christians are not of this world, as we said before. So we've been adopted as heirs of heaven by God himself. And that is our world. That's going to be our citizenship. You know, in the book of Titus, you know, he says in Titus 3:7, Paul says. So, and in the meanwhile, we must wait here, and we must keep hope and faith. And we do not, you know, don't stop longing for things to work out right for on earth. Because, as we know, the prince of evil actually run this world. God gave Satan permission, you see. But remember, Satan's job is to tempt you. God's job is to test you. God will never tempt you, and God will never let you be tempted beyond what you can actually overcome. So remember, you have to bear a certain cross. Because, you know, a lot of people walk around saying, I'm a Christian, but whenever hard times hit, then they question God. You got to be careful now, because there's a cat named Job in the Old Testament who had to question God, and God made him feel like a little fellow. Okay? So we do what we can to bring others into our world, but not this world. And what I mean by that, let's not convert over to this world based on money, power, reputation. We must stay in line with our faith. So sometimes Christians always ask me, well, if I'm a child of God, how come I see non-believers seem like they're living better than me? Well, who world do they belong to? God never promised you that you was going to win in this world. So remember, we're at war in a sense by fighting on another land. Well, this is not our land. Our land is in heaven. So right now, we're like squatters in somebody else's land. Once you become a Christian, you're born again. You've been recycled. That means that God can now use you. I have a lecture, The 3 Stages of Salvation. We're saved from the penalty of sin. We're going to be sanctified. That means that we're still a working process until we die to be glorified. That's when we get our new body. So don't give up the fight. Stay strong. And remember, stop looking at your neighbors who of this world and wanting, or what we call coveting, what they have. This is not your planet. Now, let's talk about a 12-step process describing what happens to you after you die. Now, I must warn you, some of the things that I'm getting ready to talk about is very graphic. But I wanted to do this because in the nature of what I do for work, I deal with a lot of death. I deal with a lot of poverty. I deal with, I've seen a lot in the military too. And the question always was, or still is, what happens? Dr. Moore, what happens when you die? So I will attempt to go through these slides to try to break down what happens. So within seconds, brain activity stops. Within seconds after death, brain activity stops. So the surges of electricity stops. You ever wonder how you get electricity in your brain? Do you have to plug yourself in every night? If not, how do you get electricity in your brain? I tell people, if there's no God, you explain the electricity that's keeping your brain alive. You explain to me how your body temperature regulates itself at 98.6. Explain to me, okay? Now, step 2, the body temperature drops. Okay, now we're still talking about within seconds after death. Your body temperature drops about 1.6 degrees per hour until the body reaches room temperature. I used to have to go down to the morgue and on a base, and we have people laying out on the slab, and sometimes the nerves within the bodies is still twitching. I've seen a body actually almost fall off the table. I hate it going in there. We call that mortuary affairs. But as a master sergeant, some of my duties was I had to go, identify some of the bodies and so forth. So that's step 2. Step 3. Now this happens within minutes after death. Cells begin to die due to lack of oxygen. Then they start to break down and leak. This begins the process of putrefaction. I think I said that word wrong, but putrefaction is one of the 7 stages in the decomposition of the body of a dead animal or human. It can be viewed in broad terms as the decomposition of proteins in a process that results in the eventual breakdown or cohesion between the tissues that produces liquefied actions among all the organs. It is caused by bacterial or fungal decomposition of organic matter and results in production of a noxious odor. I found bodies, in woods. We used to have, sometime when the aircraft go down and we have to do a recovery mission, we find body parts all over the place. I don't know if you ever smell a body as it start decomposing, but it's not a very healthy smell. Most of the time, you most likely will vomit the first time you come across a body. Now remember, this happened within minutes after death. Step 4. Within hours, calcium. You remember they say drink your milk? Calcium builds up in the muscle causing them to tense. This is called rigor mortis. And it's you see that lady? She's so stiff that they can actually hold her up between two saw panels, sawhorses. Now that's stiff. That's very stiff. I don't know if you ever actually seen a person with rigor mortis, but you can actually pick them up straight, no matter what their body weight is, because they're not wiggling around. It's like picking up a barbell, okay? So this rigor mortis lasts roughly about 36 hours. So, if you come across a person like this, about a day and a half, this is how long this stiffness is going to come. Step 5, the muscles start relaxing. See? Now we still talk about within hours. So after 36 hours pass, the muscles start relaxing, and it causes the dead person or deceased person to release feces and urine. I was at one of the sites about 3 years ago, and when the person was dead, and they let the person sit on the lay on the concrete and it was hot. It was during the summertime. Well, the person's body started leaking. What was coming out of this person was the feces and the urine. Now this happened pretty fast, before the 36 hours, but you could see the spot where the person was actually laying. So within hours, we already know that rigor mortis is going to set in, and it's going to last for about 36 hours. Okay. Now, after that, the muscles start relaxing. It causes the release of the remaining feces and urine. Step 6, your skin starts shrinking. And as it dries out, it makes your hair and fingernails seem like they're growing. You see our fingernails? See, it's not actually growing, but the skin is contracting. It's retracting backwards. A lot of people, they start looking like wild beasts because the teeth buck out, the fingernails start going, and the skin, the elasticity in the skin start drying up. So that's what's happening with this picture right here. I want to put this can next to it so you can actually see that's actually a hand, okay? So, look at this body, and what's happening is these blood spots you see. So, as the skin shrinks, and it looks like the hair is growing, the fingernails growing, gravity starts pulling down the blood, making light skin look pale. And it produces these reddish spots. Now, for an African American or a darker skinned person, it's hard to detect this. It's going to look more blackish like. Okay. Now, this is, I don't want to gross you out, but this is just a natural process of something that's dead. It can apply to a dead animal, So your body, the way God made it, it was only designed to carry around your soul. Remember that. Your body was meant to die. Your soul is going to last forever. Your soul, think of your body as a robot that carries the real you inside. Okay? So I know we at funerals we cry. I'd cry myself because we're gonna miss that person. But believe it, that person's already gone. That person was gone on the first slide I showed you within seconds after death. Okay, that person's going to go up or down. So you decide which way you want to go. Okay? Now within days, here's what start happening. You turn green in spots because the enzymes in your organs start digesting themselves with the help of bacteria. This is the way you're going back to the dust. You remember, God designed this body to be this way. So the enzymes in your organs, they start digesting themselves with the help of bacteria. And while I'm thinking about this, I go to the gym, and for those people who don't work out, you still need to take protein because protein builds muscle. And the ones who do work out, make sure you take your body weight of protein because that protein, what you're trying to do is keep the cells from eating on muscle. So the cells goes around your body looking for protein, and it's going to that muscle that's got protein in it. That's why when you're working out, sometimes your muscles start look like they're shrinking. Well, you're doing what you normally do, but you're not taking enough protein. 75% of the way your body look is based on what you take in. 25% your activity. Okay? Step 9, the body starts to stink. Woo! Now, you start to have this, the dead body start to smell. It's because it's decaying. The body releases chemicals. You see these two chemicals right here? Putrescine and cadaverine. Now, I have a hard time saying these scientific words, but basically these two, those two on the left are amino acids, and the two on the right is what it converts itself to after death. So, after in a couple of days after death, that's when these chemicals start to mix, and they create this odor. It's a smell. You know, when you go to the bathroom and you forget to take the Glad, whatever kind of air freshener in there, what you're smelling is a chemical. The feces is actually gas. So that's why you shouldn't be around a lot of feces without ventilation, because it's a gas. It can actually hurt you. Okay? So this is why you must wear masks when you're around a lot of dead bodies that doesn't have ventilation. Step 10. Here's the fun part now. The bugs start eating you. Maggots can digest 6% of your body within 1 week. You see this woman? Well, it's a man, really. But the maggots are in his gums. So they start digesting his meat on his body. And that's why you see a lot of skeletons. The only thing you see left are the teeth, because the teeth are bone. The teeth is inserted into the bones of the mouth, the jaw bones. So those maggots that you see up in the top corner, they're eating. And this is the natural cycle of life. They're going to go fertilize the ground. We're going to plant some corn and tomatoes, and then we're going to eat that corn and tomatoes. This is the natural process of life. And by the way, did you know that the earth is round, right? So nothing really actually ever leave the earth per se. God is good because he created a planet that can actually sustain itself. And the natural progression of life, we come from dust, we're going to go back to the dust. That's how he made Adam, out of dust. So, step 11. So, we're still talking about, now we're talking about within weeks. You turn purple and then black as the bacteria continue to digest your body. Now, this is kind of morbid. I know. I was in the fire department back in 1980, 81, 82. And I had to go to a lot of scenes. This body that's decaying remind me of some bodies that I used to see that was burnt. And I mean, I used to see little kids too. And I had to get out of the fire department because my stomach just couldn't take this. But after a while, you get kind of used to seeing dead bodies, you know. Like I said, I know this is a bad subject for a lot of people. But like I say, rest assured, the person that you knew is not still in that body. Remember, they was gone within seconds after death. And then we come to step 12, which is the skeleton. So if your body is left at 50 degrees Fahrenheit, it would take about 4 months for your soft tissue to decompose until your skeleton is all that's left. So this is a result of about 4 months of decomposition. Okay? Sometime, my mother's passed. I don't visit the graveyard because I know she's in heaven. I have a son that passed. I don't visit that grave either because I know he's in heaven. See, God tells me that I will leave this earth too. There's one thing or one appointment we'll never ever miss. We all have an appointment with death. And that's one appointment that we'll never miss. We all have an expiration date. So for all of you out there who's trying to hang on to this world, it's impossible. There's no fountain of youth. You can build up on what God has blessed you with, your body that God blessed you with. But don't think that you're going to beat death. You're not going to beat death. Matter of fact, while we're on earth, our only mission as Christian is to try to make more disciples. You see? So why try to beat death if you know that earth is not your home? You are alien here, supplanted, for the only reason why God still have you and I alive, because we're still trying to build up the kingdom. That's the only reason we're still here. Otherwise, we could say, well, let's go to the land flowing with milk and honey. But I'm not ready to go. I still got some work to do here. So I said all of this to say this. Remember our mission statement as Christian. Go and make disciples. Go out, spread the gospel, and tell others who are non-believers that Jesus Christ do exist. Tell the believers, be encouraged. Remember, this earth is not yours. So in closing, I want to thank you for being such a patient audience. Again, my name is Dr. Moore. Hopefully I achieved my objective by explaining about aliens. So if you found this video or any other videos to be helpful in your walk with God, then please send my company, Problem Solvers University, a generous donation as you are led by the Holy Spirit. Please make all donations. You could send it to the P.O. Box on this slide. It's P.O. Box 871, Sefner, Florida 33583 -871. Remember, you can also go to my bookstore, pick up some of my books at lulu.com. Also, I don't have it on here, I don't believe. You can go to my website. I'm kind of putting together this website. Yeah, I have it on here, drcmoore.com. Right now, I have a mentorship program that I'm getting ready to get off the ground, and I want to help the teens that are discouraged about life. I want to keep them encouraged to keep on pressing on, because that's what the military did for me, and I just want to come back to my hometown and try to help out others. So once again, I want to thank you for tuning in, and I'll talk to you about a day or two.